What's going on, Broncos country? Matthew Peterson here with still no voice from yesterday. But on tap for today, we're going to talk about whether or not the Broncos could pick up, sign, claim Baker Mayfield. Also, could there be actually some music to the symphony that has been bench Russell Wilson? We're going to talk about that and the latest on Cortland Sutton. But let's get things started with an interesting piece of news that came across the wire, and that was that the Broncos are signing former Tennessee Vols / Washington State quarterback Jarrett Guarantano to their practice squad per source. Broncos worked him out a couple of weeks ago. So I actually know JG quite well. Well, not personally, but he was at Tennessee when I was at Tennessee. So I got to watch him break my heart for a couple of Saturdays for a couple of years. And it is a nice signing where you should be, could he maybe, push Brett Rippon for that backup job and maybe even take over Russell Wilson for the last week or two if he gets shut down? No, JG sucked in college. I'm sorry, JG. I hate to be a damper on your party right now. Wasn't very good at Washington State. He was injured there. Was kind of surprised. He was a UDFA who went to the Cardinals. And, hey, sometimes college players, for whatever reason, are much better than the pros. Jarrett Guarantano, I hope that he has a good NFL career, but not very jazzed up about this move as, do we have something brewing in the quarterback room? Not really. In honesty, it's just a replacement for Josh Johnson. So Adam Schefter last night tweeting out the 49ers are signing quarterback Josh Johnson, the NFL's ultimate journeyman, to their roster from the Broncos practice squad. Of course, that comes after Jimmy Garoppolo got put on IR with a foot injury. And so with Brock Purdy, the only quarterback left in the Bay Area, they bring Josh Johnson over to be his backup. Maybe Baker Mayfield could be there. So now we keep moving along here. Ian Rappaport tweeting out, we all saw this by now, that the Panthers and Baker Mayfield somewhat, I'm not really sure how mutual it was, but they mutually agreed to part ways. It could be because Baker got word from San Francisco, we want you. We obviously can't trade for you after the trade deadline. Ask for your release. You're a backup there anyway. There should be no reason why the Panthers want to hold on to you and come on over to San Francisco. We'll see if that happens, but I did find this interesting. So Mike Kliss then tweeting out, you guys like the chain effect here we got going? The Broncos have the number 3 waiver priority behind Houston and Chicago if they want Baker. Would think they'd pass, though. Now, Jarrett Guarantano was signed to the Broncos practice squad after Baker Mayfield's release. At least the news broke. So, to me, that's a big sign that Denver has no interest in Baker. And why should they? There's only a couple games left. He's not going to be any better than Russell Wilson or Brett Rippon. He's been awful this year. The waiver order, like Mike Kliss mentioned for a moment, Texans at number 1, Bears at 2, the Broncos are at 3. Had the Bears beat the Packers yesterday, Denver would have gone all the way up to 2. So hats off to Seattle for this draft class they got coming their way. The Rams at 4 is interesting, but the Niners aren't all the way down, are not up until 24. Remember, the Rams, Matthew Stafford's on IR, John Wolford, Bryce Perkins, they aren't really solid quarterbacks. Baker's been bad this year, though. I mean, look at his stats. Sub 60% completion, that's worse than Russell Wilson. 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Started the first 5 games, then he got nicked up, took over briefly, lost it again to Sam Darnold. Baker's been atrocious. I think, for me, I'm passing. But I do want to know what you have to think here because that's how the Broncos breakdown works. Love to hear what your thoughts are on every single piece of news and rumors out there. Should the Broncos go out and claim or sign Baker Mayfield, depending on if he clears waivers or not? I want to hear from you in the comments section below. To me, it's kind of a slam dunk no. Baker Mayfield would do an awful job of weathering the storm that is the injured Denver Broncos, right? If he can't get it done with DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey for a stretch in Carolina, why are we going to believe he's going to do anything with Brandon Johnson, Jalen Virgil, and Latavius Murray? Like, no offense to those guys, but Baker and a banged-up offensive line is screaming disaster. So, no, I am passing on Baker going to Denver every single step of the way. All right, next up on the show. Should the Broncos consider shutting down Russell Wilson? Benching sounds a bit harsh and Ultimately, it would be a bench in a way, but with Russ dealing with a shoulder injury and a hamstring injury still, might it be wise for Denver, and I talked about this almost a month ago now, to just cut their losses for this year, shut him down, try and get him healthy, and hope they can just wipe away this entire season and get old Russ back for next season. We'll talk more about that in just a moment, but today's Broncos breakdown is brought to you by Fetch. Fetch is a super easy to use and free app that lets you earn rewards on literally anything you buy. Scan any physical receipt or e-receipt and you will earn points for your purchases. And the process only takes seconds. You don't have to worry about where the receipt is from or what's on it. So, let me show you how simple it is. All you do is open up the Fetch app, press the orange camera button, and snap a photo of your receipt. Then hit submit and you'll see that confetti pop showing you that you've earned more reward points. It's a simple process. You can also click the e-receipt function to get rewarded for Amazon purchases or other online shopping by syncing your email account. You can then redeem those points for gift cards at Amazon, Starbucks, or any of the hundreds of retailers and restaurants available. Fetch is available on iPhone and Android. Use our link, chatsports.com/fetch, and enter promo code chat at sign up for 5,000 points when you scan your first receipt. That's the equivalent of a free $5 gift card, for example, to get started. It's a free app, and then 5,000 bonus points is only for a limited time. So get started now. Chatsports.com/fetch. Enter promo code chat. The link is also in the comments and the description of today's show. Once again, kind of apologize for the voice. It is shot beyond belief here. But the Broncos offense. I just wanted to color this picture a little bit, more for you guys here because it is so bad that I don't think anyone is dumb for saying bench Russell Wilson. I know how much you're paying him, but you're not paying him for 14 touchdowns in 12 games, 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games. That's 3 touchdowns since Halloween. Think about that for a moment. And every week, they managed to lower their points per game, it feels like. 13.8. 14.2, which was what it was at a week ago before this game, was an NFL low since like 1966. And the Denver Broncos offense said, you don't think it can get worse? Watch this, baby. We won't score a single touchdown all game. How do you like dumb apples? Now, in terms of shutting down Russ, I have seen a lot of comments below, and honestly, I kind of feel like just Russ has a ton of burners because the excuses for him are through the roof for some people. But the injuries are a major factor. I'm not going to disregard that. He has been dealing with a just patched together offensive line, UDFA starting receivers. But in my opinion, when you make this much money, you have to be better than what the Broncos offense is. It's one thing if he's playing with all these guys and the Broncos are losing 20-17. They're not even scoring a touchdown. I don't care if Jalen Virgil and Brandon Johnson are on the field. You are Russell Wilson. They gave up so much for you so that when things aren't going perfectly planned and when things detour a little bit, you can get it back on track. That's the whole point of a $245 million quarterback. But the Broncos offense, no, just hasn't looked like it's been run and conducted by a $245 million quarterback. It looks like it's been run by a $2.45 quarterback. All right. We're going to get to more Broncos news and rumors in just a moment, but I want to reach 10,900 subscribers. We are 60 subs away. If you have not subscribed and you are looking for a free daily Broncos YouTube channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Russell Wilson this year, by the way, just throwing some stats on screen for you guys. 2,500 yards, 60% completion, 8 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Carson Wentz has more touchdowns than Russell Wilson, and he hasn't played football since October. Think about this. Really let this marinate. How bad it is. And sure, the injuries are real, but I don't think they are big enough to excuse how bad Russ and this offense has been. Even though Russ actually didn't have a horrible game yesterday, just looking at the box score, 70 completion percentage, but you're the leader of the offense, and it has no spark, no flame. Now, I do want to highlight in defense of Russ a little bit here, kind of devil's advocate against myself. Russ has been and is missing starting players like Javonte Williams, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy for 2 games this year, Lloyd Cushenberry for a stretch now, Quinn Meinerz for 4 games after week 1, Billy Turner off and on throughout the season, Garrett Bowles for the last 6 weeks, Dakota Allen, who comes over. Now, this next list here are all the hamstring injuries. So this is what I want to get to next here. We saw Cortland Sutton go down with a hamstring injury during the Ravens game. And he is now joining a long list of Broncos players who are going to or have missed time with a hamstring injury. KJ Hamler, after getting put on IR, is going to miss at least 7 games now with a hamstring injury. Greg Dulcich to start the year. Quinn Meinerz, Darius Phillips, Tyrie Cleveland, Jonathon Cooper. This is a long list. Russell Wilson, for crying out loud. All of these guys have been plagued by hamstring injuries, which brings us to Cortland Sutton. He left the game after the first half with a hamstring injury, and we now ran through the numerous players that have gone down with hamstring injuries this year. As Mike Klis called it, a hamstring epidemic in Denver, to the point where it's not just a coincidence. I refuse to believe it's just a lot of bad luck. I mean, this is a long list of very similar injuries. I have no idea what it's like to be in an NFL locker room or to play 60 minutes of football in the wear and tear on your body. But I do know this is not just a coincidence. This is a pattern, right? The Broncos continuing to be at the top of the IR leaderboards, which they are right now. And for a while, it was the scary ACL from Cortland Sutton to Tim Patrick to Ronald Darby. But now we are seeing the hamstring epidemic cannot be ignored as just, dang, something's in the water. No, whatever the strength and conditioning program is, it is not working for the soft tissues, ligaments, and muscles in the legs for the Broncos players, because we have seen it from Josie Jewell getting a calf injury to all these players dealing with hamstring injuries. I just refuse to believe it can all be unluck. Now let's wrap up today's show with this question right here. Do all the injuries that we just talked about excuse Russell Wilson's poor play, right? Are you going to kind of sign off on, hey, I know Russ has been less than good, right? Not perfect, but the injuries are a huge factor, and I think that should be weighed in heavily. Or are you sort of with me of, I get it, the injuries can't be ignored, but all 32 NFL teams have injuries. Maybe not to the length and to the degree that Denver has dealt with, but at the same time, $245 million quarterbacks are supposed to rise above some adversity, not just be given, freebies and get out of jail free cards for bad play because they're missing one of their starting tackles or 2 starting tackles. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Going to sign off. Hopefully see you guys tomorrow with my voice back. Go Broncos.